Hi, Dyslexic Genius here. What I'm going to talk about is taking down a Cheney phonograph motor, how to disassemble it. But this goes with any other phonograph motor you're going to take apart. First thing you need to do is know the right tools. We know that this is a 1/2-inch nut, so you'll need a crescent wrench or a half-inch box-end wrench. And we have different size screws on the machine, so you'll need screwdrivers to fit properly into the slots for the different size screws. First you want to do is, this is a speed control on the Cheney. We're going to push this down, reach in here and twirl the governor, and it looks like it's run down. You want to make sure, yeah, a little power there. You want to make sure the motor's totally run down. Now what we're going to do first is we're going to take off, this is the cover for the governor, and it's missing the screw there that holds it in place. And this has to be bent back in later. So you look at your screwdrivers and you go, oh, this will work. So we're going to take that one out. You need 2 trays at least for nuts and bolts. Because this is an offbeat part of the motor, we're going to stick it in here with the felts and the motor board bolts that hold the motor onto the motor board. Now we're going to look at it and go, okay, speed control comes off next. As a spring, we're going to release the spring like that. It has a little clip like that.
Why do you need to release the spring?
Because if you start taking this up, it'll jump back out at you. So now we're going to take off the speed control. And you see now we have the speed control. That'll go over there. Now we're going to look at the governor comes out next. We have a retaining screw here. And you might need a paper towel or something. Oops. Because we got to wipe off the excess grease on stuff we can't see. So what we're going to do is we're going to loosen this screw here. And this is going to go in the same container that the cover for the governor was. We're going to pull the end bearing out. Now we have to loosen this nut on the back. There we go. And you see I'm wearing gloves because all this is that graphite damn grease that I can't stand. It gets black everywhere. Okay. What we're going to do now is we're going to take this screw out, not the spring screw, but we're going to undo this screw. We'll stick the bearing back in. There we go. Support the governor. Why am I doing this? I'm going to show you here in a minute. we slid the governor back. There we go. So what I've done is I've loosened this screw and slid the flywheel and weight stuff forward to get this out. And now that comes out.
What's that?
This is the end bearing, the other end of the end bearing, because these are eccentric, and this thing moves up and down like this and adjusts on reassembling. Now we're going to look at this and we're going to go, yep. We have no bolts on the top except this one for the winding crank mechanism. So we're going to take the bottom plate out. This is a 1/2 inch nut also. You're going to turn it over like that, and you have two screws here and two screws here. You're going to take those out. And now we're going to use the other magnetic holder because this is part of the gear train. So when you take them apart, you want to put like all the screws that hold the back plate in one part of the whatever you're using to hold the parts. I'm using a magnetic tray, so I know I'm making a mental note right now where these screws come from. And in the tray, they're all in one area right there. You have to push down on the screwdriver. You don't want it to flare out the ends. You can see right here, this one's been flared out a little. And before we take it apart, this off, I'm going to show you something that's wrong. This is the end of the spindle drive bearing. And this is the part of it, and these two screws come out. But why do we have packed in wheel bearing grease? This is not good. So now this, you just lift up, gently rotate over, and make a mental note. You see all this buildup of crap? And that was stuck in there. See how they put wheel bearing grease into where the pivot is here? We have the pivot here in the hole. They've just packed it. Terrible. Gently lay the gears in. Spring barrel comes off like that. And the spindle shaft comes out. And we're going to test that. That looks like one of the plastic ones. That's not pushing in. But now, what you're realizing is we've used too much wheel bearing grease in a repack, and everything's corroded. You can leave the winding crank mechanism in place, or you can take it apart.
What do you mean everything's corroded?
You see how we have this buildup of that?
Yeah.
And the same thing on this. This is not what it should look like when you take it apart.
You said corroded.
Yeah,
What's
well,
corroded?
Corroded means too much grease.
Oh, no, you mean cruddy.
Cruddy. So now what we're going to do, we're going to take that screw out. This will disassemble all this. We have to take this pin out and to get the winding crank mechanism out. I'm going to do that in the next video because that takes a little bit longer to take apart. But this is how you take a Cheney apart. This is how you do any phonograph motor. You want to take it apart slowly. Make sure you have the right tools, the right screwdrivers and stuff to do this. Now you go back and go, we'll take the barrels apart. We'll clean everything down to cleanliness is next to godliness, and then we will start polishing out the end bearings and stuff and running surfaces to make it run better. And that's my tip for the day.